gentlemen, you're the first to see the new black badge ghost in Malaysia. Let's pick out a few choice words from Torsten's presentation. It's about new kind of luxury. Many years ago, and I was there in Goodwood actually, when we were first introduced to black badge. I must admit to you, a thought did go through my mind as to wonder, what are we doing with this? Let's be very clear what black badge is and what black badge is not. Black badge is not a sub-brand. It is part of our overall brand. It's the alter ego. It is not an M. It is not some other kind of different badge from Rolls-Royce. What it is, and let's start with the three essential properties of Rolls-Royce. If you can see and you're familiar with, the Flying Lady, the spirit of ecstasy. She is now electrochrome plated black. The reverse badge, the two RRs. And a lot of people forget that the Pantheon grille itself, but now illuminated for the first time in black badge form, is also part of our intellectual property. These are the three most important descriptors of Rolls-Royce as a brand. But also note, as you look at the car, and some of you will be familiar, I'm sure, with Ghost, you will see that the surrounds are also darkened. And you will see from also our slides that we have shown you at the back here, taken by our expert lensman, that when you look at the back of the car, which is obviously doing this so you don't have to crowd, is that the exhaust tips, the exhaust finishes are black. When you look at it from the view of the surround of the windscreen as well, there's a darkness and mysteriousness. We talk about black being not an evil color, but something that is really, really the king of colors, not even a color at all. And look at the accents around this particular car, beautiful car. And the first thing you obviously need to notice is it isn't black. And that's the point. And I think Anas, in his way, is also telling you that he thinks differently. He's one of the few dealers who's decided to take on a white black badge Ghost. And that is different. He's saying that it doesn't need to be black to be a black badge Ghost. Nevertheless, this white contrasts really beautiful with this double coach line. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with Rolls-Royce, these coach lines are painted by hand. It's the last person who touches this car in the factory, Paul Goodwood, who does a very steady couple of hours painting by hand with swivel brushes. Imagine that, and doing that again on the other side. This is Rolls-Royce. It's about bespoke craftsmanship. But when we look at the application of black badge, not only do we take these time-honored traditions, we add new technology. Where is this technology? You can see it here. These are special carbon fiber wheels. Some of you in the automotive trade will immediately say, but that must be for lightness. Not so. Our feeling is more about strength. Those who are drivers, and there are many of you in here, will know that strength in these particular parts of the car make also for very good driving experience. And of course, the tires are also adequately, along with the brakes, and look at the accent there. You can see I'm color-coded today, hint at a more urgent performance. And it is also what you can't see within the car that needs to be explained. So when we look at the side profile of this car, inside this car is something called a space frame aluminum chassis. It's one of the most rigid chassis that you can find anywhere. 40,000 Newton meters per degree of bending strength. Look at the figures that you see on the car market, and I guarantee you will not find many cars that are around that particular region. So you've got strength, you've got also great wheels, but you also have to have a great suspension. The suspension on a black badge Ghost is upgraded compared to a normal Ghost. Things have been recalibrated. So obviously, this is for the driver and for more urgent run around wherever you want to, please. I know somebody here has a favorite route up to Genting, for example. And yes, he would probably want to take the car up on that particular route. We've got 21-inch alloy wheels, but in this particular area, covered by something called the planar suspension. That's the world's first suspension system of its kind. Essentially, it is a suspension on a suspension, so it's a damper on a wishbone suspension. And also, for the first time on a Rolls-Royce, other than Ghost, four-wheel drive and four-wheel steering. So the rears do turn a little bit at 3 degrees up to a point of around 70 kilometers an hour. So this gives it a very tight turning circle, 13.8 meters for such a large car. And also the agility. I guarantee you that if you're sitting in the rear seat, we can probably make a lane change without you noticing. So let's move on a little bit from the exterior highlights of the car to the interior. And actually, if some of you would like to come across over here, please feel welcome to. So I'll start off just with, if you would like to come in here, it's a bit more personal. I'll start off with a feature some of you have seen before, but it's always nice to show off a little bit that's developed here. And this is the world's only crash-tested umbrella. But you also notice that it's color-coded. So this is actually a very special commission collection umbrella. Not all Rolls-Royces have it, where you have the color coded to the particular car. As you can see, the interior and this umbrella are matching. So what's also special about this is that it's Teflon coated. So Teflon coating means that when it gets wet, the water runs off quickly. And as another bit of detail, because Rolls-Royce always thinks about the detail, is that when you put this back in, this has a hole, an air channel. As you're going along, it will dry the umbrella by itself. That is the point when you talk about Rolls-Royce, it's the little details altogether that count. Now, before I go into the suite, first of all, a refresher for some of you who may or may not know Ghost. When we first developed this car, and I know the lead engineer quite well, he told me that the first passengers who were the focus group got sick. That was not his intention. You all probably think about Rolls-Royce in the words of silence. Yes, it is good to have less vibration and harshness, but too much silence can also be a bad thing. They got sick because they felt disoriented. So the engineers decided that what they had to do was to introduce something called a whisper. It is a trade secret frequency that runs through the car. And what they revealed to me was that this car is almost tuned like a tuning fork. It means that the components in the car that measured all the various oscillations and harmonic frequencies, each of them cancel each other out. This is the difference you get when you are sitting in a Rolls-Royce. You may not fully see something, it's what you can't see. That is the big difference and creates the ambience. Beautiful, beautiful interior. So I think if some of you are still watching the screen, a couple of very, very key points. First thing that you will notice is there's not wood anymore. It's been replaced by beautiful 6-layer substrate of carbon fiber. And you can read in the press release that Shen-Yi will send to you later on how that's made. But it's a very, very special technique that allows it to look like 3D. You have one of the world's best filtration systems. I won't tell you that it will filter out COVID, but it is extremely effective, and it does filter to very, very, very small particles, and it will expunge or filter the air in 2 minutes within this particular cabin. So again, all these values of comfort in Rolls-Royce are not changed. But you do see differences because this is a very now contemporary cabin. You see this carbon fiber all around the cabin. You also see, in a very good point for some of you who are observant, that the dials have what we call points of red, right? That's to show that little bit of urgencies. And the very perceptive of you, and I know there was a driver here who's probably wanting to try this on, is to say, well, hang on a minute, there's something called a low button here. And this low button gives you more urgency. If you fire it up, it means, and I'll do that later for you, if you fire it up, you will actually hear a little bit of a difference with Rolls-Royce. Daniel, maybe if you can help me with the key in just a while, so that we can just demonstrate that as well. And so what you will get is a recalibration of the steering wheel. you'll get a recalibration of the gearbox mapping and the throttle as well. It's a lot more responsive. It may sound like it's subtle, but actually when you drive it, it makes quite a big difference. You have all the technology that you've seen on some of the previous Rolls-Royces and more. For example, of course, you have what is called a comfort door, so that if you do, for example, are in the cabin, that's electric, if you can see. That's not magic. I'm not as good as that to be able to make the door go by itself. You have a superb 18-speaker, 1,300 watt sound system. This is studio and reference grade. I can tell you that because I know the audio engineer, and he has told me he's driven thousand kilometers listening to the very same music that you've been listening to. So we don't forget about the rear passengers as well. If you look into the car actually, and maybe some of you are able to peek, and I'll just get out of the way so you can see that. And those of you who like to have a little drink, or say you're bringing your family, you can enjoy also a chilled drink at the back. And by the way, for those of you who do partake in drink, there are two settings, 6 and 11 degrees. So this is a very interesting point for people who know their champagnes. This is the kind of car that you can enjoy performance. It's a bullet train up and down North-South Highway, but it is also something that you can take for a very spirited drive. And of course, last but not least, the rear, which is something that is of course catering to our audience who love golf. You can fit 4 golf sets inside the car. So ladies and gentlemen, there's much more I could tell you. Maybe I could do this with you one-on-one. Things like the shooting star headliner, things like, for example, the fact that our customers are bespoking their Starlight headliner to the night sky of when their children were born. Shall I take it for a little bit of a fire up? So ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who know Rolls-Royce, you may find that this is a slightly different sound to what you're used to. Okay, I'm going to put the low button, and then you'll be able to hear that slightly different from what a normal Rolls-Royce is, slightly more baritone. Okay, so that's the low sound. Obviously, not going to try and suffocate you with the fumes of the car. But ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to approach us for questions. I'm trying to keep the presentation short, but that is the new Black Badge Ghost from Malaysia, and of course Anas and I are also available as well if you have any other questions about the brand and the business in Malaysia. Thank you very much. Please avail yourself of the car. Thank you. Please carry on.